Good afternoon, Mr. Manderson. Not sure whether it's best to come first or last in these sort of proceedings, but I do apologize for the fact that we are substantially behind in terms of the questioning of witnesses. The good thing is members are probably tired at this time, so they'll probably question you very lightly. That may be the one benefit of coming last. But in any event, you are the final witness for the afternoon. I appreciate you being here and to give your testimony. I appreciate your patience in waiting for us as well. Just for the record, sir, would you mind stating your name and your position?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members. Franz Manderson, Deputy Governor and Head of the Civil Service.
Thank you, sir. And Deputy Governor, do you have an opening statement you would like to make, recognizing you're under no compulsion to do so?
Yes, sir, and I'll be very brief. Mr. Chairman, I think I've listened to quite a bit of the proceedings here today and read the Auditor General's report, discussed it with the civil servants, and there has been a lot of lessons learned. I think that has been acknowledged here today. And the good news is that today in the civil service, we're doing things completely different. Business case processes has been instituted. Matter of fact, I think all of us should have been in the business case training this afternoon. I did attend for an hour and a half, found it to be very beneficial, and I'm going to go back and do the training again. I have mandated that all the chief officers, all of the decision makers take part in that training. I want to thank Ms. Rodriguez and her team for putting on the training, because I think it's been acknowledged here that that was one of the failings in this process, is that there was not sound business case processing. Another area that was identified as a weakness in terms of project management. Mr. Chairman, we have taken on 3 very significant projects over the last couple of years in government. The landfill, the airport, and the seaport. We are following a model that is in accordance with the FFR. We have steering committees, we have qualified project managers, and those processes have been looked at by the Auditor General. We've asked them to come in early so that any weaknesses can be identified at an early stage, because it is my intention, it is my vision, it is my commitment to ensure that we don't get back here again where we have another report like this that identifies a number of areas of weakness. We want, and we know that we can do better with the training and support, and it's my job to make sure that civil servants get that. So, sir, I am here today to say that the recommendations that the Auditor General has made is being looked at seriously. They're already being implemented, and we are fundamentally doing things different now in the civil service than we were back then. I wanted to just say that I'm satisfied that the civil servants who were involved in this, Ms. Rodriguez, Mr. Suku, and others, did their best at the time. They inherited a difficult project. They did their best to get it back on track. The school has been built. The students are learning. But I want to emphasize that lessons have been learned, and we will do it better going forward.
Thank you, sir. Members of the committee, Mr. Manderson is there for your questioning.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Mr. Manderson. Mr. Manderson, we know now that we have a project management office. Can you tell us whether or not the budgets and accountability for all the building projects will also be transferred from the client entities to that department that's leading the projects? And if not, how will that governance framework look like when all the team is assembled and all the policies and procedures, et cetera, are in place?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. We were in a process of completing the setup of the project management office when unfortunately our friend and colleague, Mr. Scott, passed away. So we've had to start over again and get a chief project manager. So the model that we're looking at is that we will have a chief project manager who oversees the individual project managers who are taking on the various projects. We are currently debating now as to about funding and where for example, in the Ministry of Health, they have a project manager dealing with the landfill. Now, where does the money for the payment for that project manager sit? Should it be in Public Works, in the Ministry of Plahe? Should it be in Health? Those things are now being worked out. But the idea is that we will have that center of excellence where project managers can be working together, sharing best practices, helping each other, overseen by a very experienced senior project manager who is going to guide the process. I think that's a good model, and that will be finalized shortly. I think we're just doing a few more recruitments, and that will be finished. And then I think the major concern that the Auditor General has in terms of proper project management will be fulfilled.
Thank you for that answer. In terms of I guess a promise to the country, based on the experiences of the past, based on the huge overruns, et cetera, because of panic. When I say panic situations, not saying that the people that were involved were panicked, but the situation itself called for doing things out of the norm, bidding quickly, unrealistic time frames, all those things. What is the government going to put in place to ensure that the resources necessary and the personnel externally, in some instances, are properly managed and resourced? Because it seemed to me from reading the report that in certain instances, political decisions based on economic circumstances, country's economic circumstances, ministerial interpretation of their roles, lack of expertise in departments and ministries, all these kind of snowballed into a kind of situation where you knew that whatever was going to come out of that wasn't going to be what you had intended, just because there's so many moving parts. So in terms of, just how do you assure this committee and the government and the people of the Cayman Islands that lessons have been learned, processes are in place, rules are clearly defined, and this is a question I've asked other people today, and that you can kind of have pushback at the relevant levels, be it by the chief officer to the minister, by cabinet to the minister, by yourself to whomever is involved, where the rules and the checks and balances in place, so that I'm not ever going to say that you're going to always have you're going to be on budget, be on time, etc. But how do you mitigate all those things by clearly defining a very transparent and open process where the appropriate checks and balances are in place to assure people that we are looking after their money, we are looking after the value for money, and at the end of the day, we're going to try our hardest and we're going to demonstrate that to get the best value that we can for their tax dollars.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. There's a number of important events and procedures that I can point to. One is the FFR. The FFR was not around when all of this project was happening. That is something that was introduced a bit later, but that mandates that we front load the processes so that they are sound business case, there's proper consultation, there is a proper analysis, we look at risk, we have a proper steering committee, that we do things right on the onset. In other words, we are gone from the days of trying to build a house without a plan. This makes sure that we have a plan that takes us from A to B, and we're finished. So it would tell us what the risks are, how we should be mitigating against those risks, and sound planning with steering committees, proper expertise, like I said, the project management, all of those things put together will ensure success. But also accountability in terms of myself holding chief officers accountable for their performance, for ensuring that they're following best practices, to give them, though, the assurances that they can make the hard calls that they need to make when they're doing their jobs, whether it's to push back against decisions that they don't believe in, and also having the relationships that I need to have with the Premier, with ministers as well, that we can all sit down and talk through in the difficulties that arise. I think all of that exists right now, and everyone is working together for the same cause. I mean, it was a great experience for me as Deputy Governor, head of the Civil Service, but as a Caymanian as well, to go to the groundbreaking at the airport, hear our ministers, the Premier, the Deputy Premier, get up and says, we have delivered a project, but we've done so in accordance with best practice. That, in my opinion, is exactly what we all want to hear. And that project by itself demonstrates that if you do things properly up front, good things will happen at the end. And I think, Mr. Conley, to your question, that's the evidence right there, that the way of doing things in the past where we started projects in the middle without any sound planning, those days are gone. We're not running into the landfill saying we need to do this. We're actually developing a strategy that tells us through some sound analysis and exploration what is the best solutions for us. The public knows now what are all of the implications for the port. Those things have never been done in the past, but it is all, in my opinion, all of what we've just seen and what I've just said demonstrates that we are doing things differently, that there's proper planning and there's proper analysis and transparency that the public wants and that they demand.
Short and sweet, Mr. Manderson. Thank you very much for your testimony before the committee this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long day, but this concludes the meeting of the Public Accounts Committee and concludes the hearing with regard to this report of the Auditor General. In due course, we will receive the transcripts and the reports prepared for ultimately for us to approve and table in the Assembly. Before we actually leave this afternoon, I would like to record, in my capacity as chair, my grateful respect and thanks to outgoing Auditor General Alistair Swarbrick. Mr. Swarbrick completed his role as Auditor General yesterday, and he left the country this morning. And I feel that as an Auditor General and the great professional he is, our country lost a great man. And the work that he completed while he was here is a testimony to his professionalism and his commitment to the work of an Auditor General. I was privileged to work with him outside of this assembly in a professional capacity, as well as here in my capacity as chair of this committee. And I can say honestly from my standpoint, he always conducted himself in a very fair and professional manner and was keenly aware of what his role was. He knew what his job was. And he sought to do that without any fear or favor or partiality to anyone. And I just want to record the thanks of this committee to him for the great work he has done. To committee members, I think he has left us a lot of work behind. I'm told he signed off a number of reports yesterday that will be coming our way probably next week. So there's a lot of work for us as a committee to do in the weeks ahead. That was his parting gift. So anyway, I want to go ahead and just thank you all again for being here. And Mr. Potter, thank you too for attending this session this morning, supporting the Auditor General's office as well. And to welcome you as well too, Mr. Tibbetts, to the committee. There's nothing else from anyone else. Mr. Tibbetts, you want to say something? Go right ahead.
Just want to say thanks for welcome to the committee. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir. Look forward to working with you as well. If there's nothing further, then we can consider the meeting adjourned. Thank you.